Yeah, good morning and welcome to the project update session of i18 and documentation team here in Vancouver. We have 20 minutes left to show you something what's new. In Queen Cycle, here's our agenda and short introduction of ourselves, facts about Queens, and some highlight from our work like the i18 guide, the Zanata upgrade release 4, translating user survey and translating H computer white paper, things about the translation check site, goals in Rocky cycle, and what have we done yet in Rocky, and then the documentation team update. My name is Frank Klöker. I'm Technology Manager Cloud Application at Deutsche Telekom. I'm currently the project team lead of i18. Besides that, I'm the team member of the German translation team, also at Docs Core and participant of different working groups and 6 doing the Openstack community. I'm also the founder of Cloud Kindergarten. I invented society in 2015 to train our students and apprentices to work with OpenStack and to work with cloud environment. And after 3 years ago, it's nice to see the apprentice finish their education and start now with her business and her own work in this year, of course, with an OpenStack environment.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Ian Choi from Korea. And I now work as a advocator for open source activities in Korea in cloud computing area, especially OpenStack. And I was a i18N PTL during Okta and Pike cycle. I'm also a translator from English to Korean. Also, I serve a Korea user group leader from last year. And also sometimes if I can go to OpenStack Summit, and then I serve as a mentor in Upstream Institute.
So first of all, our mission statement, what we do, the i18 team in the OpenStack community, we make OpenStack accessible to people of all language backgrounds by enhancing OpenStack software in internationalization. Some facts in Queens. We touched 87 modules in Queens. This is a plus of 87%. Modules means, for example, Horizon dashboard or books like OpenStack manuals, like security guide or API guide. We're supporting 17 languages in Queens. It's a plus from 6%. This means 1 language is added in this cycle. This is Esperanto. On the top 1 of the translating counters is Indonesian, and Esperanto at the 3rd one. We have at the moment 55 active translators. They are minus of 14%. And we live with the support of 7 companies, a minus of 22%, but that's maybe not true because you have to set up your
company name. Yeah.
Your company in the Stackalytis side. So if you do not do this, then you work there as independent. Some highlights about our i18 guide. This guide shows how to contribute as translator in OpenStack, how to join a language team, how handling translating bugs, and showing or explaining our tooling in i18 and the translation infrastructure. During the cycle, we have PTL guide inside the i18 guide. If you want to be the next PTL, the next cycle,
here adding this content.
you have to read this chapter. Also the team activities with the releases, and this guide is also translatable and available in 6 languages. Next milestone, Zanata upgrade from release 3 to release 4, exactly version 4.3 are now running. Release 4 has a fresh and faster dashboard to use as a simplified installation. Before that, you have to install Whitefly, Java application server with lots of plugins and extra modules. This is gone. Now you have only to install the Whitefly 10 server himself and then the application Zanata. Set an auto upgrade of the database schema. Lots of bug fixes, and the REST API is extended, for example, to catch user statistics or project settings. This was a cross project between the i18 team, the infra team, and the Zanata developer team. Special thanks from this side to make this possible from the infra team and the Zanata developer team. Thank you. Next thing, the translation of the user survey. This is announced every year at the Openstack Summit. The user survey is available at the moment in 7 languages. From the idea was good experience to read the questions or the sense in your own language in this document, but this has a very low usage at the end. The next idea is to translate the reports, because the reports of the user survey has another audience as the questioner. Other thing, that translating the edge computer white paper, this was also announced yesterday in the keynote, our own document that describes the work about edge computing. This document is online available at the moment in 2 languages, but it's already translated in 7 languages. This has a very good experience. If you want to read something new in edge computing, then you can read this in your own language. That OpenStack translation check site is also a cross project between i18 and OpenStack Ansible team and Horizon team, as provides an Horizon dashboard for translators to check translated strings and sync the strings periodically between the translation server and the check server. Then you can check online what you have translated before. It's realized with OpenStack Ansible, OSA, with an extension of the OS Horizon Ansible role, and it is portable and easy to install for everyone. Our goals in Rocky are 3 things. The project doc translation. Maybe you heard this yesterday. The documentation are now to the project teams. And our goal is to write tools to automatic translate stuff from the project repos in our translation server and back. Another white paper translation also on the list, like this edge computing. This was a big success. Maybe other white papers also to translate. And acquire new language teams. We are present also this year, the next week in Poland and in Hungary to the OpenStack Days, and you can meet us also there. Some things also done in Rocky.
Yeah, there have been some changes on, if you go to the docs.openstack.org, you might already notice such changes. Previously, languages tab was on the bottom, so it was very difficult to access for general users. But now, yeah, we divided from to release part and language part, so you might more easily see languages tab.
Yeah, and the next highlight, next OpenStack Summit in Berlin. This little guy is awaiting you there. He's to visit today in Vancouver. And yeah, we have also some T-shirts and stickers to grab after the presentation. This was the part of the i18 team. We have contacts there, and I will hand over to Ian.
Yeah. For documentation, I'm just a contributor for documentation. Unfortunately, documentation PTL cannot come this conference, unfortunately. So I just would like to tell from his slide Current PTI is Pete Koba, who works very well with interacting with lots of projects. So there has been also some changes on documentation. So before telling more, I would like to say first on mission statement on documentation team. Actually, the mission statement was changed during our last Queen's cycle. So now the mission is to provide guidance, assistance, tooling, and style guides to enable OpenStack project teams to produce a consistent, accurate, and high-quality documentation. During the past 2 cycles in documentation team already migrated the content from previously. Documentation team managed all the content on OpenStack manuals repository. But now, documentation team encourages for all the project team repositories or project team members to upload their own document in their own project team repositories. Also, to reflect such structure, the documentation team updated some site structure and some retention policy. Retention policy is, I will explain this later for retention policy. And the third one is to add some guides for under Docs umbrella project. And documentation team still work very hard to improve the documentation toolchain, which might be very useful for all the documentation in OpenStack. The first one I would like to say is that since Pike cycle, documentation team tried to persuade a lot for project team repositories to, for example, how to write documents very well, or which kind of structure might be useful for all the documents in project repositories. So this is the current structure of how the documents are published. All the project team all the documents from project teams can be published from docs.openstack.org. And then the last part is series. Series means that the release cycle, for example, Rocky, Queens, and so on. Or there is a special flag latest for seeing the latest document. And under this structure, there are some folders such as install, contributor, configuration, CLI, admin, user, and reference. And also, documentation team updated retention policy in last Queen's cycle, and it was completed very well. Retention policy is the intention of such retention policy is to not to delete old document. There were user survey last year, and according to this user survey, many people still want to access old document, although old document provides older information. So documentation team decided not to delete older documents in docs.openstack.org, and also documentation team restored Mitaka document. For those kind of documents, you cannot submit any bugs. If you submit a bug, it will be classified as invalid because it is too old. So documentation team cannot maintain such kind of old document, but you can access very easily on docs.openstack.org. And also, there are some new guides under the documentation umbrella project. The first one is contributor guide. And such contributor guide is for how to contribute in OpenStack generally. From, for example, how to contribute code and documentation, also how to contribute to OpenStack from the perspective user and operator and so on. So please read this guide if you would like to contribute to OpenStack. And also there is a new document for constellations. Actually, this document is leveraged by OpenStack Technical Committee, and the Technical Committee wants to suggest some combinations of OpenStack components. So, Technical Committee are started to contribute this to provide better document for constellations. And also, there have been some improvement on documentation toolchain. Documentation toolchain is, for example, how to render documents in docs.openstack.org, such as OpenStack logo or some font size, font color, and so on. And also there are some tool chains, for example, how to build documents and so on. So, but I want to say that this is important for documentation. Project testing interface. Previously, each project repository built their own document using a docs command, for example, docs-e docs, and then the document was built using spinkers. But however, now all the documents are built using the Joule. It means that after your patch is, your documentation contribution is merged, and then there is a new job is run to build the document, and this kind of job is listed in project testing interface. So documentation team try to change some document on here to fit this new kind of change, and also documentation team updated OpenStack Docs theme and some OpenStack Doc tools. So for example, in OpenStack Docs theme, you can configure project name or some bug report sites. For example, now some projects use Launchpad, but other projects use Storyboard. In this case, then you can configure such kind of how to bug report on such document using this information. So please read such kind of information. That will be very helpful for users, project repository maintainers. So how to receive feedback to documentation team? The first one is that you can submit any bugs to launchpad.net, but please write a tag for documentation or docs. It will be very useful for documentation teams to team members to identify your bug. And also there is a mailing list. Previously, documentation team used their own mailing list called OpenStack-Docs. But however, now documentation team just use OpenStack Dev channel to communicate with many developers, since now all the project repositories have their own documents. So please write this docs tag, and then documentation team will easily identify your communication and your feedback. And also there is IRC called OpenStack-Doc. So please join here. If you have any question on documentation, and please come here and ask your question. And how to contribute to documentation? So in this document, there are some suggested style guidelines are mentioned. For example, you need to write some active voice rather than passive voice, and using you rather than we would be much helpful for documentation. Such kind of styles and also how to build your documentation are mentioned in this site. This is somewhat different from contributor guide, because general contributor guide is for how to contribute from user's perspective or developer perspective and so on. But this guide is for how to contribute to documentation. So yeah. Okay, that's the project update for documentation. And previously, he updated I18. So if you have any question on documentation or internationalization, please tell us. No question.
So no question. Then I would say thank you. And if you want to grab your T-shirt, please come here in the front. Thank you.
Thank you.